Welcome to the Strength Coach Experience podcast. I'm your host, Joe Lego, and here we go. All right. Welcome to the first episode of the Strength Coach Experience. I want to welcome Richard James, mentor, brother, and my friend. Richard, how you doing?
Chilling like a villain, walking on the streets of Brooklyn, enjoying this beautiful night before June.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a crazy couple, 3 months, huh?
Crazy. It is. But you know what? As we always say in the dungeon, make the necessary adjustment, right?
Exactly. Yeah, no, and I think that's been the biggest thing over the last couple months here. It's just learning how to adjust, and not only learning, I think it's people are actually forced to adjust now. Your whole life changed based on something you really can't control with everything going on, and now you're physically forced to adjust, whether it be workouts or, cope mentally or, with your job. But I think, it was kind of a pause there globally, and it forced everybody to adjust. But we've been talking about that for about 10 years and doing it in the profession.
Yeah. We've seen it before. It's going to happen again. And I'm actually blessed to be a part of this whole experience. Just watching how an idea could be so infectious as to shut down the entire world. And the idea we talk about is the whole COVID situation, which is actually an idea which forced everybody to adapt and adjust. But given who we are and what we've been doing for the past however many years we've been doing it, we actually recognize that we had to adjust at some point in our life, and we actually embraced it. Like everybody in the Dungeon family, as far as what I know, they've been doing real well in this COVID. Yeah. Like we weren't doing good, so we weren't doing well, so well earlier on in our lives, and now we're starting to literally thrive in the most stressful part.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Stressful part of life.
Yeah, you're right. Everybody we've talked to, pretty much, and I've been, reaching out to everybody, in the Dungeon crew, and for everybody out there listening who, you know who you are. But yeah, it's just, we've been doing it for 10 years. And when we've all started, in the Dungeon, we had to make the adjustments to make things work. And I think this was just something that happened, and it was a terrible thing. And, everybody had to deal with it different. But I think we were I felt like we were a step ahead, because we've nonchalantly kind of been preparing for something like this for quite some time, because regardless of what life throws at you, you have to adjust, or you can give up or you can adjust. There's no middle, and there's no kind of hanging out undecided. You either adjust or you perish, pretty much.
Yeah. That's basically our lives, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's been,
you were born, you were gonna die when you were a kid. Like, dude, you walk around with a limp, and most people don't even see it because you've figured out how to adjust to that. And as for me, I grew up in one of the most dangerous countries in the world in the 80s, and it's 80s and 90s.
Yeah, it's been a change.
Yeah.
And we'll just piggyback right on that. Let's get right into it. With the experience, just give us start us off. From birth till now. Let us know what makes you Richard James, and what has shaped you up until this point in your life.
From birth. Well, I'm going to tell you the honest truth. I really don't remember sliding out my mother's parts, but I'll catch up where I remember.
We can skip up ahead a little bit.
I remember, I'm gonna start when I was 3 years old, because that was the first memory I had. I was 3 years old, getting ready to go to Bound Brook Infant School, and my mom took me to school, and I was so confused. I was always hanging around with my mom, and now she's leaving me with a bunch of strangers. And my mother kneeled down to me, kissed me on the forehead, and said, Tino, what are you crying for? This is a part of life. This is something that you have to adapt to. Yes, you're leaving the house and you won't have me, you won't have your uncles and your aunties. But look around you. Your people your size, they're your friends. And those statements basically put my little heart at ease. And then later on in the day, I pissed myself and I shit myself.
Well, I think, just being around you for that long, I mean, that stuff still that your mother told you 3 is, has resonated with all of us, that worked with you and had the pleasure of being around you,
Yeah,
because that's
man.
how we approach everything now. So what happened after the first day of school? Did you start to acclimate a little bit?
No, I shit myself for about a week. I was too scared to go ask, hey, can I go to the bathroom? And then I was told that's not the direction to go. We didn't have enough pants. So I had to adjust. That was my first adjustment. Um, and as I got older, I remember next memory, I was 6 years old. Graduation day. I looked around, I saw every kid with a gift, a book, a balloon, slice of cake, whatever it is, but something that showed appreciation for their little 3 year journey. And my friend Richard James had nothing. And I looked at my mom and I was like, hey, why is it that she have and he has and all of these people have and I have nothing? My mother looked at me again and said, hey, what did you do to get something? And it made sense. First couple of days I shit myself. So started
Yeah,
off on a bad foot.
yeah.
And at 6 years old, when she told me that, I made a conscious decision that wherever I go, I will leave my mark. And the next memory I have, I can share it with you also, is my first day of primary school, what you guys call elementary school, grade
Hmm.
one. Yeah, Norwich Primary School. Norwich, by the way, if you guys ever have a chance, go check out Norwich. It's one of the most beautiful coastal regions in Jamaica. Ah, hillside, beautiful views. Best time to be at Norwich is right around 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Get beautiful, cool sunlight. Actually, it's not really hot. It's cool. And you can look over the ocean. But let's go back to my first day. My first day, I met a lady by the name of Miss McLean. And my mother promptly told Miss McLean, you have the authority to straighten them out whenever you need to. Well, for you people who don't know what that means, corporal punishment. I would be spanked if I misspelled a word, misbehaved, got into fights. Well, I got a lot of beating for that. And that's where my next development came through. After about a couple months of being in school, I was being very rebellious, continued to give trouble every day. In grade one, and my mother came to school again, and my mother said to me, Richard James, do you understand who you are? And I'm just listening to my mother like, what the hell is she talking about? Do you understand who you are? And she stood up in front of me and she said, you were born December the 1st, 19, and she told me whatever year I was born. I won't tell everybody, but you'll find out. And she said, that mean you were born at the last part of the great years. You're one of the last great babies, but you're not showing greatness. You're showing the opposite. And when you do that, you're not only hurting yourself, you're hurting your grandfather and your grandmother. And most of all, you're hurting your children. And I'm just like, yo, wait a minute, my children, I'm not even old enough yet.
Yeah, you're in the first grade, but no, it seems like, but she gave you, perspective at an early
Yeah.
age, and it takes some people never figure it out, but it seems that, she opened your eyes that there's things bigger than yourself that you affect every time you make a decision on a daily basis.
Yes, yes, yes. And that piece of information was worse than a spanking because I stood up in the middle of the schoolyard and I cried. And multiple kids came around and saw me and my mom talking, and I was crying, and they were laughing and pointing. And that was the most beautiful thing that I could ever see.
Mhm.
And I decided that day that when I leave Norwich Primary School, I was going to leave Norwich Primary School as an outstanding student. Fast forward to I think 1992. Yeah, 1992. I graduated most outstanding student. From there, hell broke loose, my friend. Hell broke loose. I'm going to tell you this. I've never told most people. I've never told you this. After I graduated at elementary school, I was blind for a good 6 months.
Wow.
Could not see. Yeah, I don't tell mom, but my mom knows about it. Blind for 6 months. I had to go into Kingston Public Hospital every Monday to have someone place an injection needle into my eyeball, extracting whatever juice is inside of it to figure out if there's an infection that's causing my blindness or whatever it was. I've never felt that much pain in my life. Yes, they had put stuff in my eyes to numb the feeling, but that pressure of somebody sticking a needle into your eye, it's
Yeah, I mean, I
crazy.
could only imagine that at a young age, and all this adversity before before you were about 12 years old.
I was
So
12.
yeah,
I was 12.
that's a lot. All this stuff, all this perspective, all this stuff. I mean, it was like you're being told adult lessons and having to deal with real problems and things like that at a very early age. So how did
Yes,
the
man.
when you started running? How did all this stuff affect when you first started
All
getting
right,
into the
so
running scene?
let me explain how this running thing comes in. So I was at Kingston Public Hospital and I decided that when I get better, I am going to be good at something. I tried a whole lot of stuff. I was actually telling my son about it today, dying with laughter. I tried table tennis, karate, everything, and I sucked at it. And then one day I saw some kids running around the track and 13 years old, try out for the track team. I got beat by everybody who had legs. Yeah, 13 years old. I remember one young man look at me. His name is Jarvis. Jarvis who looked at me and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I say, I'm training for the track team. Why? I want to go to the Olympics. And his friends, along with him, did what most American kids would call bullying right now. They laughed me to scorn. Their statement was, "How can you get to the Olympics when you can't even beat the girls?" And in the back of my head, I'm like, "Oh, that's a good idea. Like, oh, I got to beat the girls. All right, then. Let us move on." It was a
Wow.
struggle beating the girls because Jamaican women are very strong and strong-willed. And if they
Yeah.
beat you one time, you're going to stay beaten forever. So it
Uh-huh.
was a little bit of a work getting past that hurdle.
Hmm.
And Joe, I'm going to tell you, there's another obstacle, and I don't know if I'd show you that scar on my left Achilles.
Yeah, I think you've told me the story before.
Yeah, yeah, that was another hurdle. I was playing around in a dumpster, not really in a dumpster, like in a trash heap. Stepped on a can, and then the can ultimately sliced my Achilles heel. It's a weird thing. I stepped on the can, it clamped onto my right foot, but then there was a little part sticking out to the side and it sliced my Achilles heel. I had to walk my backside straight to the Port Antonio Public Hospital and I got that stitched up. And that's how a lot of this thing start.
Hmm. Yeah, all through
Because I,
adversity.
yes, man, as that Achilles heel started to heal, I started to put force on it, ask it to work. Like, yo, dude, work, work. And I found out that I had a spring in my step after that. And from that spring in my step, I go back to practice, and the girls were still beating me. Not all of them, though, not all of them. Just the fast ones, just the tall, strong, fast ones were beating me. And then I recognized at the age of 14, 15, that I was not strong enough. Not mentally, but physically.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't able to, exert the amount of force that I need. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to start running. Actually, I was 14 years old. After that thing healed, I decided I wanted to start running every morning from 5 o'clock in the morning, every morning. Actually, I started at 6 o'clock in the morning. Then I used to meet my grandmother at the road. And my grandmother had to be at work at 6 o'clock in the morning. She had to be at work at 6 o'clock in the morning. I always liked meeting my grandmother because she lived down the street from me. So I would get up earlier so that I could see my grandmother. I'm going on the road, she's going on the road. I remember my grandmother used to wave at me through the bus window as I'm running up the hill, and that gave me so much energy. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I did that from 2014 all the way to 2016. And not 2014, I'm sorry. Back to 90. These are the 90s, I'm sorry. 90, okay. Sorry.
All the days are jammed together anyway. Somebody asked me the day today. I said it's somewhere between March and July.
I'm not blaming it on Corona, but everything I'm talking about with regards to my age at 14, 15, 16, those are in the 90s. Those are in the 90s. So that's where this whole madness started, man. Just trying to
figure it out.
Myself.
What sort of stuff did you do, in terms of running? Did you do any lifting and stuff? I mean, I know we've talked about several times about different surfaces and things that you ran on.
After getting my backside kicked a lot of time by most of the girls, I got tired of this whole thing. So as I said, I started doing my long runs. I got really good at the long runs, but I was still not able to run faster than the girls. I can run with them, stay with them, but there are a few I couldn't beat. So I decided, you know what? I wonder if I run up hills, if that would get me faster. And I started to do hill runs. Hill runs became easy. And those poor girls didn't know I was going to hit them. I just blazed past them. Then I graduated to the boys training group, the distance boys, the boys distance group. Yes, because I was too slow to hang out with the fast kids. Did distance for a little bit. And then I was playing around with some of my friends on the beach, and I noticed that the taller kids were just leaving me in the dust. One of my best friends' name is Richard Ferguson. He was just dusting me when we were playing on the beach. So I'm like, so I have to start hanging out with this dude and train with him because his strides are longer than mine, and we're gonna run in the beach. And we did beach training a lot, and we started getting better. But the pivotal moment is the summer of 1995. 1995, that's when I really put my shoulders to the wheel. I ran every morning, and these are the runs that I would normally do. I would go for a long run, which is about a 3 to 5 mile run, on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. On Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday, I'll do hill sprints. Do a lot of hill sprints. On Thursday, I'll go do beach runs. So that's how I would knock out the whole situation. After about 4 weeks in the summer, I found out all of that was getting a little bit easy. So I decided to get an old backpack, throw sand in it, and start running with the sand in the backpack. That got easy. And then I decided when I'm training at the beach, instead of running just with the backpack, I'm going to run in the water, knee-high water. And that knee-high water forces you to pick your foot up the right way and attack the water, attack the ground the same way, because you're trying to part the water as you put your foot down into the ground. And having that bag of sand on my back, that sandbag collected a lot of water, so there goes additional weight. But the only problem with that is that the sand with water create an abrasive material or abrasive situation.
Mhm.
Many times I would literally run the skin off my back
Oh,
because that
wow.
sand in the backpack would just go through. And you know what? I recognize it was a part of the whole process. I
Hmm.
had to have some skin in the game, as they would say.
Yep.
And mind you, a lot of these things are being done in shoes that look like Vans type shoes, Vans,
Yep.
those
Of course.
skateboarder shoes. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's what I was running in.
Yeah. But,
Understand me?
yeah, but, you're making the adjustments, and I think that, we'll get to it in a little bit, but that's what made you as a coach. And, I think that's what, we've talked about it before, what's kind of missing in today's, athletes coming up is they don't go through struggle, or they don't do these things, or they're not, placed in positions where they have to adapt or overcome, or have people tell them that they're not good enough. And then it doesn't allow you to, to make adjustments. It doesn't,
Hmm.
if somebody tells you you're not good enough, same thing we talked about, either you can listen to them or you can figure out a way to be
Yeah,
better or
if
not
they
listen
tell
to
you,
them.
like if someone tell you you're not good enough, they're probably telling the truth. Like,
Yeah, of
wouldn't you like
course.
to know that you're not good enough? And if you're not good enough, wouldn't you like to know where can I get better? Because that's how I
Exactly.
looked at the whole system.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
didn't look at it like oh, you're hurting my feelings. Like first of all, it's your feelings. And if you want to feel good, take this crappy ass message and build something out of it.
Exactly.
It's as simple as that. We're
Hmm.
living in a world right now in the United States where individuals are looking for people to take care of them,
Yep.
as opposed to recognizing that your hands and your feet and your brain are your tools for taking care of yourself.
Exactly. And it's also, they want to be, they want gratification before they succeed, or they want, they want to come up with a facade. And I think we've talked about it before. You need to go through
Gratification,
trials.
sorry for my language, but gratification is like busting a nut. Have you ever clocked a nut bust feeling? Like, have you ever clocked it?
Yeah.
No, for real. Have you ever clocked it? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
on your mark, set, go.
Yeah.
It's a very, very short period.
Yeah. And
That's
that's
what
what I'm saying.
gratification is.
Yeah. And what it says, go back to, we talk about, the brain chemicals. That's all it is. You get dopamine for that 12 seconds that you're gratified, and then it goes back down.
But
Then the
but
cortisol
you
comes up.
also get dopamine when you reach obstacles, like little tiny obstacles, and you hop over them.
Hmm.
You got these parents running around nowadays, literally just bulldozing all of the obstacles out of their kids' way, and then trying to figure out, oh, or even trying to say, oh, my son or my daughter, she is or he is this good. No, they're not. You just created a ridiculous space for them to be good.
Yes,
Anybody
exactly.
can be good if you create the space for them to be good.
Exactly. If the trail has no hills and no leaps and no bounds and no rocks and holes, it's going to be easy. Exactly. You
Yeah,
have to go through the adversity. You have to go through the hard times, because now you have to be left alone to figure out what you're going to do. You have to be left alone to figure out how yourself are going to solve the problems, because it for a fact. When I was at LIU, we used to tell the players, you need to learn how to figure this out on your own, because the coaches or me is not going to be on there on the field or
no,
in the box. You
no,
have to you have to figure it
no.
out, and you have to learn how to do it, because in life you're on your own all the time. You're going to have people that help you, people for support, but if you truly want to succeed and you truly want to fix problems, it's on your own.
Yeah, it's on your own, except for one or two times when someone will give you an opportunity to get
Yes.
better. So I remember back in like the same year, that same year, 95, I
Yep.
was given a pair of Rawlings cleats, the rubber cleats, Rawlings rubber cleats, that one with a flap on top of it,
Yep,
by
had
one
those
of
when I
my
played in Little
good,
League.
yep, by one of my good buddies who used to live in Miami. He came down and he was like, "Yeah, here you're running. I brought these shoes for you." And to me, those were the most beautiful things I'd ever seen in my life. Blue Rollins shoes. And I looked at the size of the shoes. They were a half a measure smaller than my feet. But at the same time, I had to wear it because that's the
Yeah, but
only
you had
thing I had.
shoes. You had shoes
That's
though.
now I have shoes, and it's not like I didn't have shoes. Like now I got good training shoes.
Hmm.
Now I have good training shoes. And what I had to do was actually, those are the shoes that actually made me run in the water because they were
Hmm.
made out of leather. And I knew if I run in the water in these leather shoes, they will eventually, that was a dumb idea. They would eventually stretch out.
Yeah.
I lost the skin off my big toe on both feet for doing that. That was a good lesson learned.
But it was
That
a
was a
lesson
good
learned,
lesson.
yeah. So then take
Yeah.
us in. How did you arrive in Brooklyn?
Oh, Brooklyn. Oh my God. In order for me to tell you how I arrived in Brooklyn, I have to go back to 96 again. And 96 was my breakout year when I went to Boys Championship, and nobody knew I existed,
Hmm.
just as a lot of people don't know I exist right now. And I just showed up on the scene, became one of the top athletes in the country. I did that 2016, expecting to go into 2017 as a favorite. And just as most baseball athletes got disappointed this year, or most spring athletes got
Wrong year again.
disappointed,
Wrong year again.
wrong year again. Let's go back
16,
20,
17, 96, 97.
96, 97. Thanks a lot. Yeah, 96, 97. Um, I looked at the whole thing and I'm like, okay, I'm going into 97 and I'm going to be the top athlete. I'm going to be great. And right before my regional championship, my principal decided to cancel the track and field season.
Wow.
Cancel the track and field season.
How
And
did you deal with that? How did you?
oh, it's a normal situation, man. When someone tell you no, it doesn't mean no. It means next opportunity.
Mhm.
So he told me I can't run for the school, so I ran for the club, my parish club. I ran for my club, basically ran for my club. And one day I was training on campus at Titchfield High School, and the principal came out of his office. Didn't I tell you that the track and field season is over? Why are you training? I'm like, oh yeah, the track and field season for the school is over. I adjusted. I'm running for the parish of Portland.
The biggest
It's
thing
like, oh,
in starting the podcast
okay.
is that I
Well,
wanted
thank
to
you
be
very
able
much.
to get
So now
all the
from
information that I've learned and all the
97 going
experiences
into
that I've had over the
98,
years out there to the people,
again,
and I've
18
written
years old,
articles and I've been to a lot of
tough
places,
kid,
but,
ready to
I
go
just
go
realized that,
off on
having the
everybody.
boots on the ground and being in the
Did
gym and talking
well,
to people
came
was
in
great
top
and trying to reach
five
as many people.
in Jamaica, and
But
this is in the
if you can
800,
create a show in
and
which
didn't
you're
get a
able to
scholarship.
explain
So I
how
decided to go
you
back to
made it
my
to
high
where you were
school
and bring in people that
and
you've met over the years and just give people the
volunteer as a
feeling.
coach.
The
I
feeling is the
remember it was a
biggest thing, and let them
February
understand the same passion and the
99.
same experiences and that same
I was
deep-rooted feeling that you have going
I
through
trained
this. I
this
think
kid
it's gives
to
them
just go out there and
better
tear people apart. He
understanding
did
of what
really,
you
really
went
well. And
through,
one of
but
the
also that
managers for the Jamaica
passion
national
and
team,
who you
Mr.
are as a person
Brian
comes out.
Smith,
And I
saw me
think
and
that's
said,
the most
"What are
important
you
thing.
doing here? You're too
When you
good.
can show people
You
that
should have a
passion who
scholarship
just
already."
met
I'm
you
like,
or in a few minutes, and they just
nobody
understand
offered
how
me
much you
anything.
love
And he's
what you're
like,
doing,
okay, don't
regardless of
worry
what it
about it. Let
is,
me call some
strength
people for
conditioning,
you. Made a
nursing,
call,
librarian, whatever it may
got
be.
into
When you can bring that passion, where
Southwestern
that
Christian
passion
College
leaks
in
out
Terrell, Texas.
in normal
And I
conversations,
tell you,
and you have
man,
that
that
little
place
flicker in your eye
was
anytime
one
anybody
interesting
brings up
place. I never
anything
knew the N
that you're
word
talking about or anything
until
related to
I
your
got
field. That's when you know
to
you love what you're
Texas.
doing.
And I knew I had to leave Texas real quick. And from there, that's how I got to Brooklyn, to Simon Hodnett, where Richard James the Beast started to blossom into his own. When I went to LIU Brooklyn, that's in 2001. My first 3 weeks of experience was one of tragedy. I witnessed the Twin Towers. It's getting thrown to the ground like little pieces of tin can.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, that's right. That's right in there. I was in the eighth
Yeah,
grade.
yeah. And I look at that whole situation, Joe, and I said to myself, wow, I would love to see how New York get out of this mess that they're in right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
that's crazy.
between then and now, it's a lot of things that has happened. a lot of things that has happened because that whole mentality about making necessary adjustment, I brought it to Brooklyn. I went to LIU, Long Island University.
Yeah.
And being at LIU Brooklyn, I learned what make the necessary adjustment mean firsthand.
When did you know when you were at LIU that you were different than everybody else there? Like, what made you know that you had a different mindset?
First day of practice. First day of practice. Coach Simon saying, "Mark, set, go." And I wanted a space on the team. And I went out 100%. And when I looked behind me, there was a ridiculous space between me and the second place person, who coincidentally was one of my former teammates at the junior college down in Texas. And from that day, I told myself, I'm going to die on this track.
Oh, that's what you have to do. I think that's like I said, going back to it, that is exactly what you need to do in order to succeed at the level that you were trying to get to. I think that there needs to be no stones unturned, nothing left, and it's just willing to forget everything and kind of leave it out there. And again, if you go on a mound or you go on a field and there's things to worry about, especially in the age of 16 to 20. Where there's nothing to really worry about, I think that's where people get caught up. They worry about form this and this and all this other stuff. And in reality, you're just supposed to just do, And
there's a thing my mom used to tell me when I was a kid. The devil uses two tools to trap people's spirit. Number one, the fear of death. The fear of dying.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, the fear of ridicule, the fear of being laughed at.
Yep.
My mom said that to me, and my dad said to me one day, my dad was like, if you're not afraid to die, you will live to the fullest. If you're not afraid for people to laugh at you, you'll reach the highest.
Yeah, I think that's true.
And that's basically what I've adapted. I'm not afraid to die because I was born to die.
Yes, of course. And if you're, you don't want to have any regrets. So you have to live every day as if you're preparing to do that. And that's why you do everything with full, you have to be all in with everything. And I think that's what separates everybody, athletics, coaching wise, teachers, if everybody at any point, if today was the last day, Steve Jobs said it best, if you were going to die tomorrow, would you regret what you're doing today? And if the answer is no for too many times, it's time to change. It's time to figure something out, and I think that one of the things is a lot of people think that they need to do something big, become a billionaire, become a professional athlete. It has nothing to do with that. It's all about what you want, how you can change and what you can do. Exactly. How many people can you impact? How many people can you impact? Or how much can you impact yourself? Or what can you do to better yourself that will eventually help other people? I think that's when we talk about goal setting, everybody, talks about, well, they need all these big giant goals or these outlandish things. They want to be like everybody on TV. And I'm like, no, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with what do you want? And then how can you get there? And who do you need to help you get there?
Joe, you're asking a lot of these kids questions that they would never be able to answer. Mm-hmm. Because as we recognize already being in the college setting for years and analyzing these kids, the first thing these kids do not have is trust.
Yep.
And in order for you to know what you want, you first have to know yourself.
Yep.
In order for you to know yourself, you first have to have trust.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Yeah. Because if you don't have trust, you don't know what you need or who you want around you. If you don't have trust.
And you can't have trust if you've never been tested.
Yeah.
You can't have trust if your parents bulldoze all of the obstacles out of your way. You don't know what method work, what system work, what tactics work. You don't trust the system that you're a part of because that system has never been tested.
Yep.
You understand? And that is where I have a problem with this whole training system where people are not willing to test the physical and mental capacity of the students that they're mentoring.
Of course, because if you can't test them in a safe environment where you know with your knowledge that nothing bad is going to really happen to them, then how are they supposed to prepare for in a position where something could happen, or if they're not
Yeah,
willing to put that on the line? But if you can't mimic that as close as you can, and we're not
yeah.
talking about crazy deadlift 500 pounds. Well, I can't do that. Well, try. What is the worst thing that can possibly happen? Your body's going to shut you down before you get hurt anyway. You're not going to
And if you
die.
get and if you get hurt, it's going to be a minor hurt. And
Exactly.
the only thing is, you can push yourself to making yourself hurt worse. But the way we train you, it's a simple thing. As soon as you feel something that does not feel right, we get back to the drawing board
Exactly. And
and
we
we
put you in a
assess and we
position.
move. Yeah,
Exactly. Put
yeah.
you in a position that you're uncomfortable and you'd like to feel uncomfortable, right? And
Yes,
that's the
man.
thing. If you can feel comfortable amongst anarchy, that is where you should live. And that is when you know that you're at your best. When everything around you is insane and you can quiet everything and focus on the goal. So let's move right into those. So how did you start coaching after this stuff with the trek?
I
Since
had
you,
really great mentors. I
Mhm.
had really great mentors. I had really great mentors. I had Mr. Dunstan at Titchfield High School. Then I went through Marlon Barr in Texas. And then from there, I met Simon, who was a really good mentor, really good coach. But the people who were most impactful to me are number one, Oral Dunstan, and Simon Hadnett, number two. And then I got to meet Radomir Kovacevic, Milorad Stretchovich, and Eugene Spatz, three of the most brilliant people you'll ever meet in your life.
Know them very well. Yes, fantastic.
Unfortunately, I wish Kovacevic was alive to actually speak to people, because his information helped a lot, especially on the mental part of it. Kovacevic is a judoka who has competed at multiple world championship. He was a captain of the Tokyo University of Tokyo's judo team. Um, Milorad Stretchovich is a cardiologist, neurologist, and
Oh,
exercise
my
physiologist.
favorite, best neurology teacher I've ever had.
And Eugene Spatz is just an all around great professor.
Amazing.
And as I say, Simon is just a great strategist. And I saw how they approach their training system to bring the best out of everyone. And I got a little bit jealous, because guess what? These guys are doing God work. That's how I was looking at it. Like, they're literally building people, like turning people into world champion, turning people into Olympians, people who don't even know that they have the ability. They just build them. And that was so exciting to me. I looked at that whole situation and I said, like, you know what? I would like to see one or two young ladies and young men experience the joy that I've experienced in going to the Olympics and getting a world championship gold medal, in making it to the NCAA finals, being all American, like having a school record, doing something that nobody in their family has ever done before. Like, those things are the things that drove me to want to become a coach, to want to
Mhm.
become a social engineer for greatness. That's what I call it. Like,
Yes. No. Yeah, you're right.
that's
No,
that.
and I can do the same thing with you, because I remember the first time I was in the dungeon, watching the women's basketball team train in that rickety place with the tire and chains hanging from the ceiling, and everybody was like, "Oh, this is whatever, this is cool." But I remember the way in which you trained and the expression on all the girls' faces and how happy and how committed everybody was. And I remember I was like, I want to do that. This
Yeah.
is what I want to do. The training stuff it's not me making people lift heavy. I want to make them feel the same way and let
You
them know
create
that
that
they can do anything.
environment. Yeah,
Exactly. Being the
yeah, you
creator
create
of
that
the
environment
environment. Mhm.
where they want to be great, where they're willing to listen to the information, follow the direction, and push past the limit. And that's
Exactly.
one of the reasons why we vet people out of our dungeon, because everybody had to have a certain level of love for what they're doing. You
Yeah.
can't be doing it because you want to show people that, oh, I'm better than that person. I'm better than that person. Guess what? You suck.
Yeah, and no, and then for those of you who don't know, listening, the dungeon was it was the green room for an organ room at LIU Brooklyn, and when you walked in there, you already had to be willing to sacrifice. We had
Yeah,
nothing. We had a
nothing.
rug and 3 squat racks. I mean, you went through it a lot more than I did. I was only there after '09, but I just remember being in there and everybody was like, "This is terrible," and I was like, "This place is amazing." I
Yeah,
was like, it's the barest bones that you can possibly get. And if you can
yeah.
create an environment of success out of this, wherever these people go out of here, there is nothing that can stand in their way.
Listen, we were using chains for TRX.
Yep.
We were using chains
With a
for
steel V
TRX.
handle hanging from the ceiling.
It is still yeah, yeah. Because we didn't have it. And our motto was make the necessary adjustment. So
Exactly.
regardless of what was going on, we had to adjust for greatness.
Exactly. Of course. Did you start coaching at all while you were running?
I started coaching when I was 19 years old in
Okay.
high school. Like I started with my high school team.
Did you do
And then
strength conditioning in Jamaica
I
or
didn't
just
do I
running?
didn't do strength and conditioning, just running.
Okay.
Just learning how the best coaches teach people how to pick those feet up and put them back down. And then it's when I came to LIU Brooklyn and I saw athletic trainers. Actually, I was doing athletic training as a class. I wanted to be an athletic trainer because that's what they put on the thing. So I
Hmm.
wanted to do sports medicine. They're like, oh, the closest thing we have is athletic training. I'm like, okay, what is athletic training? Athlete gets injured, you run out on the field and you take care of the athlete. Boom, boom, boom. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I'm gonna do that. After about a good 6 weeks of doing it, I'm like, okay, I get the athletes after they've been broken. So I don't have a say in trying to fix these athletes. That was my question. And the professor looked at me and said, listen, we're the first line of defense. And that statement that he said, we're the first line of defense, it made me feel good because I thought I was going to be able to make a change in the athlete's life. And then I went to practice and I saw 5 girls on the women's basketball team with the same injury. And they were not able to do anything about those injured athletes. And that's where it hit me. I am the first line of defense. I am a strength and conditioning coach. And that's
Yep.
where it started. That's where it started. And when I came back from the Olympics in 2004 and I went to do my grad school, I was given the opportunity by TJ Kostecki to work with his soccer team for that off season and that preseason. And the winnings that I would take from track and field actually went on into that soccer team. And they won their first conference championship. And that feeling flooded through my body, that feeling of joy, like, I can do this. I can do this.
Yeah, and I think
Next,
that's the biggest thing that we all deal with. I mean, the same thing for me too. I think you constantly question what you're doing until you're successful, and not that you need
of course.
success, but when you get the camaraderie, when everything comes together, and the team succeeds. I don't know if anybody, unless you're a strength coach or you coach, that feeling you get when your team is succeeding. I mean, I could talk about it in 18.
Yes.
When we were at Coastal, Richard, that feeling just being there and knowing that they did it. I was there, I helped put the workouts together, but that them together as a team, I mean, there
Yeah.
is not a feeling like it. Minor leagues and every other place, there's not a feeling in the world where I was like, wow, we made it. We talked about this in September.
Yeah. I love the way you condition those kids, man. And when we talk about conditioning, I don't talk about you running up and down. Like that's easy stuff. But when we talk about condition, we talk about creating an environment where thought process is normal, where the thought process of success is normal, where the thought process of winning is normal, where the thought process of embracing the suck, of embracing when shit goes bad. That is what we're talking about when we talk about conditioning. That
Yes,
mental part, that
exactly.
99% that is
Hmm.
lurking under the surface.
Yep, and
That would
putting
even
every
make,
player, yep,
yeah,
putting every player on the team in a position where they can excel. Not that they're
yeah,
all going to be great, not that they all have the same athletic abilities. It's your ability to take all 30, 15, 12, whatever amount players you have and getting them to put them all in positions where they can concede at the highest level to achieve one common goal.
Yeah, yeah. It's like basically watching an orchestra just go off and play the most beautiful music. Drums are beating, the horns are playing, and the guitars are strumming, and then everything just flow together.
Exactly. But some instruments play soft, some instruments play loud, some have
Yeah,
solos, other play in unison. Exactly.
yeah,
It's all a beautiful orchestra.
yeah.
And you're the
And that's what
conductor.
coaching is. That's what
Mhm.
coaching is, whether you're a strength and conditioning coach or you're a real live sport coach. It's taking all those beautiful ingredients to make a wonderful soup out of it. That's how I talk about it every time.
Exactly. You and your
Uh,
soup. Exactly.
yeah,
No, but it's an orchestra. But the other thing is, too, I look at it is, but if you drop that baton, Richard, the orchestra can still play without you because you've
of
taught them
course.
how to live through experiences and through the adversity.
We're so caught up with winning that we don't even learn.
No, exactly. Winning doesn't make you a great coach. It's the it's
Nah,
the it's the impact that you left after. You know, you and me do it all the time. You talk to kids that you coached 5 years ago, and they'll bring up
yeah,
the stuff you did in the weight room, and you're like, really? This is what you remember? And they're successful business people, and they've gone on with their lives and have kids, and they still remember, the 6 months or the 8 months that they were with you, and how, the things that you talked about over weightlifting, deadlifts, and
yeah,
over a sport, and it still
yeah,
reigns supreme in real life, and I think that's the best feeling, for me, and I'm sure you can, agree with that, is that, it's the changes you make, and you don't really know
yeah.
the impact really until some years later.
Yeah, you know what? I can jump on that with this whole experience of being at LIU happening in 2007. Yes, I'm in the right year. 27 years old, being a strength and conditioning coach. Never had an experience of actually following or shadowing any strength coaches. I just read a couple of books and watched a couple of really good track and field coaches, and then listened to a couple of guys talk about picking things up and putting them down, heavy things, and then applying what I learned in grad school and undergrad at LIU to creating a program. I remember I was training the men's basketball team, and they were mentally drained after a really crazy on-court workout, and they decided to give the guys dodgeball, have them play dodgeball. And at the end of dodgeball, I'll go downstairs to them and I'm like, hey, listen, your season sucks. How many more games y'all have? All they got to do is just break at it one by one. Coach Jim Ferry, who's at Penn State right now, he got wind of what I was doing. He called me in a stairwell, and he basically gave me the most beautiful lecture that anyone could ever get. He basically told me that this is not your team. Your job is to work for me to get my team ready to win championship. And I looked at him and I said, Coach, you are right. I'm the strength and conditioning specialist. And given what I see today, I don't think these guys need to be in the weight room lifting. He replied to me, you don't tell me what my guys need. I tell you what my guys need. Do your job. And I recognized immediately that as a strength and conditioning coach, you're basically a servant to the sport coach. And if you don't know what you're doing, the sport coach will lead you astray. I
Exactly.
actually didn't listen to him. I didn't listen to him. I did my own thing.
Yep.
And I told him within the next 3 to 5 years, and this happened in 2009. I said within the next 3 to 5 years, if you don't win a championship, I will quit. In fact, I expect you to win at least one championship within the next 5 years. 2011 came, won a championship. And how I know it's a lot of my strength and conditioning along with his freaking awesome coaching, because the man is brilliant as hell. I don't hang around with dumb people. Um, Nobody could keep up with us. Nobody could jump like us. Nobody could run like us. Nobody could defend like us. We were winning games with an average of 82.5 points per game. Teams were gassed before the first 10 minutes of the game. And that was because of a comprehensive training program that took pieces of tennis, soccer, track and field, football, and gymnastics.
Yeah, no, it's an integrated system. 11s when I arrived, legit. And that's when things were just starting to take off. I remember those years, 3 years in a row.
Yes.
We just destroyed everybody.
We destroyed everybody except for North Carolina, Michigan State, and we're just undersized. That's what it was.
Just too small. Undersized. That was the thing. It has, if we were all 6'9", 6'10", we would have, be having a different conversation. We willed them all to win. And in the time we were there, we got to see everybody win.
Yeah. And it's just simply because we recognize that every athlete wants to win. It's just that they're not in the condition. Not a lot of people are in the condition to win,
exactly.
Whether physical conditioning, mental conditioning, or social conditioning. And that's what we do. You understand?
Yeah. And if you don't have the physical, if you don't have the psychological, all the other stuff, goes by the wayside. And I think, it took me time to learn. When I was under you, when I was your assistant, my first years, I used to scream and yell and freak out about people, being in my weight room, and, everything had to go as planned. And then I slowly realized that it doesn't matter. It's all about the message you deliver. And no matter how it's done or who's there or what happens, if you can get them to get their work done, it's good to have challenges and different things. It's good that everything doesn't go squeaky clean all the time.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a challenging, brainstorm. It's supposed to be challenging. Life is supposed to be challenging.
Exactly.
How do you know that you're alive if you're not feeling a little bit of pain and a little bit of joy? How do you know that it's happiness if you've never been through sadness?
Oh, no.
And that is one of the reasons why whenever we're training people, we vet the parents. Because if the parents is planning to take out the curling broom and start making way for these kids, we're going to walk away from it. I remember one day, and I don't mean to cut you, I was training Adam Ozeri. He was about 13 years old. We're outside training in 95-degree weather with a pretty decent amount of humidity. Basically a crazy experiment. And he got an asthma attack. We're about halfway down the field on a soccer field from his bag with his pump. And he started to go down with an asthma attack, and his mom ran over onto the field with the bag ready to give him his asthma medicine. I looked at her, I'm like, do me a small favor, just put that bag back over there for me, please. If he wants to breathe, he will go and find that thing. Because I don't think he wants to breathe. And Adam, when you're done, you come back and we have to do this work. And that poor little kid, 13 years old, struggled step by step, going to that bag, got his pump, got a couple of puffs, stuck the pump into his hip, and ran back to me, ready to go again. And right now he's a pretty successful soccer player. Those kind of kids, we don't have them anymore because the parents not only will bring their asthma pump, they'll bring their nebulizer, and they won't train for the next 5 days because these parents are clearing the path for these champions to emerge.
Yeah,
Not understand that a champion has to fight through all of the forests and the woods.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes you who you are. We've talked about it constantly. Your experiences are who you are. I talk about my experience with my cerebral palsy and all this stuff, but everybody asks me, if it wasn't for that stuff, I'd be about an eighth of a person who I am today, because I went through the adversity. My parents were there to support me, and that's who makes you are. We just talked about all the stuff you went through at an early age. If you didn't go through all that stuff, we wouldn't be talking right now. You'd probably you'd be living back there.
Yeah, question. What is the definition of ad?
Add
Yeah, add.
to enhance something.
Uh-huh. Versatility. What's the definition of versatility?
To be able to go through conflict or
Versatility.
mm-hmm.
Versatility is different encounters. When someone said they're versatile, they can do many different things. Adversity.
Right.
Adversity. That's what it is. Adversatility.
Mm-hmm. Being able to go through different things
Being
and to
able to
come out in
go
one
through
place.
different things. Yeah, yeah.
And no,
I
and that's
actually
the
just
thing.
figured that out.
Yeah, but no, that's the thing. There is not enough times of adversity. And I think that's the biggest thing. Everybody thinks nowadays, instead of going through adversity, you go sign up at a performance place. That does not give you adversity. A deadlift bar is not going to teach you life lessons. A kid twice your size who beats you up and takes your basketball is going to teach you life lessons. Or somebody telling you you're not any good at something that you think you're going to be great at is adversity. Or go far beyond that. Life problems and issues with, growing up in, a difficult situation or things that happen in life, those are
Mm-hmm.
adversity. And by
Mm-hmm.
trying to shield that, I don't, it doesn't build the character of the athletes we see today. I think
No.
if you go through any athlete that's been through some, successful athlete or successful people, they'll always bring up adversity. There's always adversity. At some point in their life, somebody told them no, or somebody told them they couldn't, or somebody laughed at them, or they went through something that, some people can't imagine. But that is what made them who they are today. Billionaires,
Yeah.
sports athletes alike. And, we talk about all the time. That's why I think Michael Jordan is always going to be the greatest, because the guy just fed off of that adversity. And if he didn't have anything, he made it up because he understood the mental aspect of the game.
And that making up adversity, I've done it a couple of times, especially as a kid growing up in Jamaica. Running by myself, I would create the faceless man. And let me give you who the faceless man is. The faceless man is me and all my strengths, none of my weaknesses. The faceless man is always 5 to 6 steps ahead of me, but I still have to keep at pace with the faceless man. You understand?
Yeah.
Most people don't do that. They don't create an evolved version of themselves to compete against. They're busy looking at other people's statistics. It's their statistics, it's not your statistics. Look at your statistics. You know where you want to go and you go after it. Simple.
Mm-hmm. And the only thing that matters are your statistics.
But on a more serious note, Joe, our kids are being coddled to death.
Yes.
They're being coddled to death. Like, imagine you're living in a uterus that can constantly restrict you, and you push against it, and you push against, and you get big, and you're born, and then there's no more stress.
It's like a shark in a fish tank, Richard. It only gets as big as its environment allows him to. If you're in a place where everybody does it for you, it's going to limit your growth. If you don't put somebody in a place where they have to grow, they're not going to grow. And if they put you in a place where everybody does everything, it doesn't force you to make the decisions to get through things. And then you can't go back into if you run into something hard in life, if you've already been through things that are harder than what's going on, then you can say, okay, now I've done this before, not this exact thing, but I've been through this before. So now I can take this experience and now I can use this experience to get through the next thing. But if if every time you have a problem and it's solved for you, they don't know, you don't possess the abilities to be able to go through it.
No, and that's why I'm afraid of working with the bulldozer kids. Those are the ones who mommy and daddy paved the way for everything. And that's one of the reasons why I love taking children to Jamaica to train them in the hills. Because the modern luxuries are taken away. And you have to fend through this harsh, beautiful environment. You understand me? The only running water you get to play with is the one that's coming from the stream. You understand? And it's
Yeah.
cold, and you still have to bathe in it. And you still have to wake up early in the morning to go run at 6 o'clock on the beach or on the hill. You understand me? Or on the road. You
Hmm.
still have to lift rocks because we did not have weights, so we use the rocks to work out. So that's how it is. Right now, as we spoke about this a couple of years ago, yeah, it's taking these kids out of this environment, putting them in a place where they have to fight.
Exactly.
When I say fight, I don't mean fist fight. I mean
No,
like,
putting them in fight mentally and figure things out. Cause
yeah,
their brain to callous over things that hurt and form new pathways to figure things out.
yes, man. I remember last year I had a bunch of guys who were going up Bonneview Hill in Port Antonio, and I told them about my 150 hill sprints that I had to do one day. And yes, 150 hill sprints is cruel and unusual punishment to people who can recognize cruel and unusual punishment. But for me, it was one of those things. It was the furnace that made me ask the question, how bad do I want to be great?
That's what
That
it's
was the
about.
furnace. I put some of the kids through that workout, and about 75% of them throw up. The ones that didn't throw up are the ones that didn't pass 100 runs.
It's incredible. Yeah, putting them in a position to do that. And we did that at
Yes,
LIU, and now you can, you're doing that with the younger kids.
yeah, yeah,
And I think
yeah,
it's every day for you and me, it's a learning experience, dealing with new types of people and things. And, everywhere you've been, you just reach into that bag and you take it, but we grow every day, and
yeah,
I think that, but it's getting, sometimes it's difficult with, because it's hard to put people in difficult situations, because if they don't have the abilities to do that, or to be abilities to figure it out, um, then it's very hard if you stick somebody in a situation and they can't get out of it because they've never been through it.
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So it's finding new
And
ways to figure that out.
I'm glad you talk about that tool bag
Yeah,
because I've always like I'm gonna dip into the strength and conditioning tool bag.
I'm fearing I'm running out of tools.
Well, if you're running out of tools, you create the next one, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's Cuba all over again.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah. Um, I'm still asking this question. What is strength and conditioning?
No, it's going to be a question for years because there's so many, if you want to go low level, it's you pick things up and put them down. High level is, my opinion, it's a person that can change somebody through working out, both mentally and physically, for the better, and with the use of exercising, teach somebody how to be a better person and how to change lives through the lessons being taught in the gym.
What is the definition of conditioning?
Conditioning is teaching somebody a pattern in which to deal with certain types of either adversity or in order to achieve an outcome.
I think we have it all wrong. It's conditioning and strength.
Yes, we have to condition them first, because once they're conditioned, then the lifting is easy. And
Of
I think
course, the
that's what
lifting
we've
is easy.
done. We have to,
Yeah,
all the teams that we've had that are successful are conditioned first, and the lifting and the strength gains come after.
because the strength is one of the easiest thing to get. Like you have people lift things up, put them down for 21 days. You're gonna get better through better technique, learning the movement a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
The progressive overload is gonna make you get better. And if you're growing, you're gonna get better. So that's the easy part.
Mm-hmm.
5 sets of 5, 3 sets of 3, whatever metrics you want to use. But what happens if the individual is not conditioned to step on the court, step on the field, step on the track, step on the cross country course?
Then they're going to
Yes,
fail. And then
exactly.
and if they're not conditioned right, they won't be able to deal with it.
Yeah. And it's not
Yeah.
about just running up and down. Like running up and down, it is conditioning, it's cardiovascular conditioning, but that can't happen if the mental is not there.
Exactly. And I think that's the biggest thing. The mental is always going to be the biggest thing.
Yeah, man. So that's me in a little nutshell.
Exactly. And so what's next, Richard? What's on the horizon?
What's on the horizon? If the world would allow me to, because I'm not going to go ahead and just take this one by the horn. I will be creating this whole hit and run. Actually, I've created this hit and run brand because hit and run is two basic instincts, fight or flight. And that is created to help those who absolutely want to be great and they're not that good to basically hit their targets and run fast. That's what's next.
Exactly.
Building
Perfect.
a community like you and everybody else from the Dungeon family, whether it's Nick, Kurt, Andrew Adam, Marcus, Raphael, Jillian, just spreading that news, spreading that message of greatness start from conditioning.